this understanding of issues with water and wastewater in Canada, I would like to shift this conversation now to solutions and possibilities for the future. So to our panelists, what do you think are some of the opportunities and potential in the water sector in Canada as we look to the future and aim for better water infrastructure and better water systems and better connections between how people's relationship with water? Let's do counterclockwise now. I'll ask Alan to maybe comment first, and then go over to Banu.
I genuinely believe that there's so many opportunities in the Canadian water space. I mean, my career challenge so far has been that there's so many exciting opportunities, I can't decide which one I want to pursue. So at least on the opportunity side, I think there's a lot, and there's a lot of exciting things with the last few years and the current government that we've seen come up, whether that's the Canada Water Agency conversation, the Blue Economy Strategy conversation, these larger national themes around conversations that have historically been regional and sector specific. So I've got 3 opportunities to highlight, and one is self-serving, it's innovation. So Water Next, I'm working on a platform that I genuinely believe in, which is how can we stitch together innovation across sectors and across regions. So Pallavi, you mentioned at the beginning that we've had some very successful water tech companies in Canada's history, but we haven't had an effective water tech landscape in Canada's history. We've had a couple of companies, they've done very cool things, but largely these companies come up with their own solutions. They're a set of very specific conditions at the time, and then we don't replicate that. And so I think there's an exciting opportunity to start to grow the kinds of innovations that we need for Canadian water challenges, and by extension to adopt them. So how do we bring adopters and companies and entrepreneurs and innovators to the table together and do that in an equitable way? So look at Indigenous innovation, right? Look at innovation from marginalized communities as well, and not just from sort of more traditional innovation centers. So innovation to me is one. Number 2 is integration. We as Canada are so large of a country and so small of a population that anytime we look at regional or sector specific efforts, we lose that economy of scale. So how can we start to look at water cross-cutting as a theme, right? And we're really having now the international language to be able to do that. So we've got SDG 6, Sustainable Development Goal around water and sanitation. We've got planetary boundaries around fresh water. So the international community is starting to look at water as a cross-cutting theme. And I think there's an opportunity now for Canada to plug into that and also look at water in an integrated way. So that's my number 2. And the last one is equity and sustainability. So the types of water futures that we're trying to build just fundamentally haven't been built before. If we were to put one pipe in the ground for every pipe we take out with our aging infrastructure, we've got a great engineering solution, but these aren't resilient systems that are able to adapt to climate change. These aren't systems that connect people to their water footprint and their water use. And these definitely aren't systems that are scalable to remote and Indigenous communities. So looking at what is the kind of water future we're trying to build, and how can we make sure that we design that in an equitable and sustainable way from day one? I think that's a huge opportunity, and an opportunity not just for Canada, but an opportunity for groups within Canada that haven't historically been part of the water sector to really get pulled into the conversation.
Thanks. Those are some, great kind of topics that you've identified for solutions, and I'm sure there are some. We could have more discussions on them as the audience might also be interested in some questions. But let's hear from Banu first, and then we'll go to the audience for questions.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll follow up on Alan's points. So, and I agree with all of them. So water being a unifying topic, that's so important. And so we have a Global Water Institute at Carleton University, and it's the only water institute in Ottawa. And Ottawa is a great location. Why? Because we have the federal government, we have government labs, we have the embassies and, trade organizations. And the institute is multidisciplinary. I'm the director of the institute. But when I really started working on it, like I look at water, I'm an engineer, okay, like there's surface water, drinking water, wastewater. And then I work with colleagues in African studies, for example, or like with a geologist, like for them, water is trapped in a stone. Okay, so, but it is such a unifying topic, and it's not just science and engineering, but it's social sciences, humanities. So that is really very important, and it also shows there's a lot that can be done around water. Okay, so innovation is very important, and innovation is so difficult, I find, in Canada. and I also have patents, and like some of my patents have been commercialized, they're used in the market. Okay, but I mean, like, don't hold your breath. Okay, so there's lots, and I see this, like there's lots of great invention at universities, but the ability to move those great ideas or inventions from universities to the market, I think there's really a disconnect there, and it's very, very difficult to achieve that. And also Ellen's last point on sustainability and the need for new systems and equitable systems. So sustainability is very important. And how we do water and wastewater infrastructure. I mean, if you look at it, like if you go back to Romans, which is like 2,000 years ago, and this is one of my hobbies now. When I travel, I visit like antique Roman cities, and the water and wastewater infrastructure is basically identical. I mean, you really look at it, they had the sewer systems, they had the water distribution systems, everything, the design, they figured it out. And now, like after 2,000 years, we're not really doing anything much different. Okay. And so that has to change. We still rely on these like big mega wastewater treatment plants or systems, like all these like collection systems. And there's really no room for smaller, decentralized, but really sustainable, unique systems. And I'll give you an example from my research. For like freezing, natural freezing can be used as a method for wastewater sludge treatment. Like in Canada, how easy is that? You don't use chemicals, it is free, like you don't have to design anything. But unfortunately, we do not really use these sustainable methods. And going forward, I think there's a really important need to design systems, treatment systems, or water and wastewater infrastructure that are suitable for Canada, rather than, it's not like taking a BMW and making it small and push it to an indigenous community. That doesn't work, and that's what we have been doing. That's not the solution, but there's really a need to design innovative, context-appropriate technologies, water and wastewater infrastructure.